Yeah, that's a good question, and I feel like it's always a topic of conversation, and it's always a really tough conversation too. But I feel like this has been going on for the last couple of years, I would say, give or take. Um, Way more than it did, my first couple of years. And I feel like as things have gone on, the dynamic has certainly progressed, and I think everyone has a better understanding. And ultimately, I think just amongst our team at Hendrick Motorsports, I feel like we have found ourselves in just a good position of understanding what's important in when it comes to helping each other. And to me, the high spots of that are getting on and off pit road together efficiently, and then restarts and lane choice from that standpoint. And then outside of that, the race has to evolve naturally, right? Like we really try hard not to hurt one another, but it's hard but it's also hard to expect someone to hurt themselves and to go out of their way to try to help you. So I feel like we have a good understanding of that, and we've really just focused on putting emphasis at HMS and Chevrolet too, as we have evolved into just the pit cycle and doing that together and making time, because those things, that in particular, I feel like is going to put you in the best position after that, and potentially for the end of the race. So that's really where our focus has been. It's where my focus is at, and I feel like we've reasonably, I think we've done a good job of that, and I think we've gotten better at it as time has gone on, and focusing on those things, and just not playing so many games of expecting too much from one another, but just focusing on those high spots.
And do you have any concerns about not having won the first 8 races? I know you won the last 2, but you've gone plenty of times in your career with more than 8 races without a win.
No, I'm not concerned with it for sure. I would have loved to win for sure before now, but at the same time, I feel like we have a great team. I feel like I'm in a good place. I don't feel any different today than I did approaching the end of the season last year. So we just have to continue to push and work hard to focus on what makes us go fast, what makes me comfortable behind the wheel, and just focus on us. And I feel like that's something we've always done a really good job of. At the 9 team in particular, Alan and I have a good relationship, and I think we understand what I need behind the wheel to go fast. We just have to achieve that and get it and execute races. We've had pace at certain times this year that I felt like was good enough to contend for a win. We've also had races where we were really bad and didn't have the pace. But those are, that's racing, and that's part of it, right? Those tough days and slow races push you to want to be better. So I guess to answer your question, no, I'm not concerned with it. We all want to win, but I feel no different today than I did at the end of last year, and the results were just fine then. So I know we can achieve it. I know we can go out there and accomplish our goals, and we believe that as a team. And really, outside of that, it really just doesn't matter.
Thank you.
Okay, our next question will come from Hank with AP. Go ahead, Hank.
Hey, Chase. First, have you enjoyed having 3 straight short tracks on the schedule in a row?
Well, there's only 2 short tracks on the schedule, and they never fall in order. So Martinsville was it.
Well, what about Bristol?
Well, yeah, that is a good point. I guess the dirt kind of throws that one for a bit of a loop, but yeah, I mean, Bristol is such a one-off thing. I mean, that's really hard, right? Because we don't go back, to the dirt. So I think it's been good. I mean, I think our cars and our series suits well for short track racing. Martinsville, I thought was a good race. I wish I was a part of it a little closer, but I thought it was a good show. I mean, Martin and Denny raced really hard there for the win, which I thought I don't know what else you can ask for really if you're a fan. I mean, they were side by side for 10 laps, it seemed like, which I thought was really cool. So yeah, I think it's a good thing. And I think, I've always been a fan of it, and I'd love to see more. So hopefully we can get there one day.
And Richmond is obviously a little bit longer than those two, and the configuration's a little bit different. How much different is the driving at Richmond?
The driving at Richmond is honestly very straightforward. And I think that's what makes Richmond really hard, is because it's just not a super challenging place, I don't think, for the drivers to run the proper line. But what makes it really hard there is to just be different, and everyone is just doing the exact same thing. Obviously, you have to have your car balance really good there, and it has to be perfect. You're riding that really razor thin edge, much like you do at Martinsville. But definitely it's a challenge, and I think the biggest reason is challenge is everyone is just doing the same thing. Martinsville is different, where I feel like guys really attack that racetrack differently, whereas Richmond, I feel like everyone is just in the exact same boat, and it's hard to it really is hard to be different, and I think that's what makes that place tough.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take our next question from Dustin Long. Go ahead, Dustin.
Thank you, Chase. Thank you, Chase. With everything that's happened in the last year, certainly everybody's had to do things in a different way. So everybody learns a new process. And as eventually, when the sport maybe goes back to a more new normal, I'm curious from your perspective, the things that you've had to do in the last year in this COVID world. What are the things that you might take, or processes or things that you had to do a little bit differently in preparation that will still carry over, even if things go to back to like the good old days, I guess?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. I mean, honestly, from our preparation standpoint, really not a lot changed. I feel like we went about our race prep really similar to what we did in the past. I feel like our post-race work was really similar to what it was in the past. I don't necessarily think a lot changed from my competitive side or from the competition aspect, but certainly from the logistics side of things and the scheduling side, which this is above me and not my call. But I definitely think there is a lot of lessons, a lot of good to take from what was a bad situation and still is a bad situation, and just how they're doing things. I feel like NASCAR became more efficient in the past year than it's ever been, and especially than it's been in the last 10, 15 years. I feel like we just learned that there's just a lot of things that we don't have to still put on a great show on Sunday. And man, I think we'd be making a really big mistake to not learn from those lessons and to not carry some of that stuff forward. And I feel like the leadership is different and is as, confident and open to trying new things at NASCAR than it's, I don't want to say ever been, because I wasn't around, for a lot of it, but man, they're doing things way different now and trying things that I don't think any of us would have ever expected, 10, 15 years ago. Right. So I think that they are looking at all of it, and I think they should. But that's up to them and whatnot. And again, that's not my call, and I don't want it to be my call, but I do think there's a lot of great lessons that we can take from this, and just how to be more efficient as a sport moving forward to, make it a little more economical and make use of everyone's time wisely on the road, and still put on a really good race on Sundays or, Saturday night. So again, I think there's a lot of good to take from what's been a tough year.
Also, as the sport looks to open up a little bit more access as early as next month, as a competitor with much at stake, does that impact any decision on whether to get vaccinated or not, or have you already taken care of that, or kind of how do you view that in terms of the vaccination?
Well, I view it very personally, as I think a lot of people probably will, but I myself view it personally. I don't share my medical records with the public. I don't tell you guys when I go to the doctor. So not out of disrespect, but that's just, kind of a personal guy, I guess, when it comes to my health. And, I'm making decisions about my health on my own terms. And I will respect everyone else's, decisions just the same, as I hope to get the privacy and respect of mine.
Thank you.
Okay, our next question will come from Daniel McFadden. Go ahead, Daniel.
Hey Chase, you've had two of your teammates, William Byron and Alex Bowen, who've gotten chances to drive the next gen car so far. I'm wondering, what have you heard from them, from their experiences, that's piqued your interest about the car you're going to be driving next year and how it compares to what you're currently driving?
Yeah, to be honest, we haven't talked about it a ton. I've been kind of hesitant just with the whole situation and whatnot on the car and guys driving it, just because I still think there's a lot of questions that aren't answered. And, you don't want to pick up something that, say it's a certain thing with the steering, and, there was some talk about that a little while back, and that it was way off and they were working on it, and trying to get it better. But that might be a comment that you might get from one of them a while back before it was proper. So I've just been really careful about asking and, really getting involved with that car just yet, because I just think there's things that they're still working out. And honestly, I kind of want it to be worked out first before I really dive in and start to, pick apart the small things that can make a big difference. We're always hunting the really small, fine details, and you just want to make sure all those details are what we're going to have next year. And that's really been kind of where my head's at with it.
With all the new stuff that's with this car, like the independent rear suspension, the sequential shifter, what aspect of the car are you looking forward to most being able to experience yourself?
I think it's hard. I mean, it's really hard just to pick out one thing, right? Like, I don't think the sequential shifting is going to make that big of a difference. Like, you guys would never know we have an H pattern shifter in our cars. Like, you would just never know that looking from the outside with the way the transmissions are. We might miss a shift on occasion because of that. But for the most part, the transmissions are, really nice, and they like to live in gear, and they want to go in gear, and it doesn't really seem to slow down the shifting process. I mean, I feel like we get the thing in gear really fast. So I don't really see that changing the look of things a whole lot. But certainly the independent rear suspension and the aerodynamic factors of that car, I think, could definitely change how the racing looks. But I think you have to look at it as a whole. I think it's really hard just to say, hey, that one thing is going to be super different, and I'm super excited about that. I think the whole thing is it's a package, and it's a package deal, and that whole car is a one unit, and it's going to be very different. And I think you have to look at it as a unit and see how it is different as a whole, because again, to your point, there are some things that are very far removed from what NASCAR's had for a long time. So I'm very curious to see how it works, and curious to drive one and see how the racing is.
Thank you.
Okay, our next question will come from Claire B. Lang. Go ahead, Claire.
Thank you. If we could talk about Richmond for a second, you have 3 top 5s and 4 top 10s. What do you find difficult about that track, and what kind of a short track racer do you think you are as you look ahead to Richmond, Chase?
Yeah, again, as I was saying, a few minutes ago, Richmond's been a super challenging place for me personally. I know we have a few top 5s there, but never really, this last race in the fall, I thought was the best we've ever been. there, just consistency and throughout the entire event. So I was really pleased with that. I thought that was our biggest step into really doing things right there. And the big step for me and driving the car properly and kind of looking for the right things. But I think that the hardest thing for me about Richmond is there is not really a lot of options about how to drive the track. All the drivers really kind of just driving the same line, right? We're all just kind of looking for the same things. It's hard to be really different. And that's what makes it really tough. Everyone is just doing the same thing there. And I know it kind of looks that way at other tracks too, but as I said a few minutes ago about Martinsville, I bet if you asked the drivers about Martinsville, they would tell you there's a lot of different driving styles for that track. And I just don't see that at Richmond near as much. I don't think you have that many options about how to attack it. So you really have to have your car perfect. And all the good drivers hit their marks. They don't miss it very much. So you really have to have your car driving perfect and execute and make time on pit road, do all the really small, fine details really well there, because it's super tough to be different on track.
So if you're all looking for the same thing, and if you're all running the same line, then I would think it'd be more aggressive in order to make ground up at Richmond, even though we talk about Martinsville being so aggressive, right?
It is aggressive in a little bit of a different way, because I feel like Richmond is a place you can easily overdrive. You can get on the other side of the grip and kind of blow through the tire there at Richmond really easily, and Martinsville too. But then because of that, clean air becomes a factor, I would say, a little more at Richmond than it does at Martinsville. So yeah, like I said, it's a tough place, and it's put on some good races over the years, probably because of that, because everyone kind of has that same line for the most part, and it is just hard to be different, and that's why it's hard for me. I don't know, I might be the only one that thinks that, but I think that's been the challenge for myself.
Well, listen, good luck, and thank you for your time. Really appreciate it.
Yep, thanks.
Okay, we're going to take our next question. Let's see, Hank, did you have a follow-up?
I do.
Yeah, go ahead.
There have been times when the race at Richmond almost looked like a fast parade. There was just cars going around and around. I think there was one year where the guy who led the first lap of the stage led all the laps of the stage both times, and that kind of stuff. Can that kind of turn into Martinsville was a very physical race, a lot of contact and stuff. Can that change the dynamic at Richmond if people get like that?
Man, that's tough, because I feel like we're always trying really hard, and to me, like I said a second ago, I think the aero factor comes in at Richmond way more than it does at Martinsville. At Martinsville, if a guy wants to drive in there and drive to your back bumper and hit you, if he's close enough, he can. At Richmond, if you really overdrive your entry to get to that guy's bumper, you are committing to blowing the corner pretty confidently, I would say. Being right behind that guy, the surface is really smooth. The cars are sealed off to the ground at all times because it is so smooth. There's not a lot of delta in the splitter, so it's just the aero thing comes into play there. As slow as we're going, it's still really important, and it's hard to just drive in there and hit a guy and move him up out of the way and not mess yourself up too bad to where you can't capitalize on that. It makes it very difficult. So just think the aero value there is very high.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to take our next question from Anton with ASN Motorsports. Go ahead, Anton.
Thanks, Amanda. Good morning, Chase. So you've had a couple of races where you could have won, but just came up. What do you think that the number 9 team will be able to put it all together to make it to the victory lane?
Yeah, I hope so. We're trying hard. We're always trying hard, whether we win or finish last. We were trying hard. So, it's always a fight. I felt like Martinsville was a really strong fight by our team. Honestly, I mean, I felt like we had a long day, just in kind of how the strategy worked out, and I felt like we passed a lot of cars, which was good. And I felt like we got up there, towards the front there at the end. We definitely weren't as good as, Martin and Ryan. But I thought we were, probably mixed in with that group behind them, which, is not what you're looking for, but it's certainly solid and something you can build off of. That's an important race for the fall. And, I hope we can go back and build on that for that race, but certainly looking to Richmond. It's been a struggle track for me. We would love to go there and try to get a win. That'd be a big one if we could go do that. Just knowing how bad we've struggled there in the past, reminds me much of Martinsville and our struggles there, and kind of progressing and trying to get better. So hopefully Richmond's another step in the right direction, and we can contend up there.
Wishing you all the best for this weekend.
Thank you.
Okay, our next question will come from Mitchell. Go ahead, Mitchell.
Chase, outside of winning, what would you say the biggest goal is during the opening part of a long 36 race schedule?
Honestly, you said it, winning. I mean, I think winning early is a good thing. Do you have to win early? No, we didn't last year. But per se, but I definitely think it helps, and that to me is the most important thing really the whole year. I mean, we're just with the way the points format is, and it's a long regular season to the playoff run to when that starts. But if you can have wins in the bank when that deal starts, I mean, it doesn't guarantee you a shot to Phoenix, but it sure does hedge your bet. And having those points as those rounds reset and go forward. So I think that's the most important thing. And, obviously getting good points and having solid finishes to get yourself in a good position for the regular season championship thing, whatever they call it. I don't know what the proper term is for it, but it awards a bunch of points if you have a good result there. So winning and getting yourself good points for the end of the regular season to help carry you through the playoffs. Those playoff points, however you get them, are the most important thing.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take one final question here from Ashley McCohen. Go ahead, Ashley.
Thanks, Amanda. Chase, thanks for your time. There's been talk of the possibility of NASCAR adding a street course to the schedule in the future seasons to come. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with it. Again, as I was saying a few minutes ago, I'm honestly super excited that this leadership group at NASCAR is branching out and trying new things. And hey, I'm about it. If we go have a street course and it goes terrible, then that's honestly fine with me, because we were trying something different and we weren't just stuck in the ways that we've been doing it for however many years, just because that's how it's been done. So I think sometimes we try these new things and we all just have this expectation of something that we don't know whether it's reasonable or not, but we have these high expectations for it. But in reality, I think we should really just be happy that we're trying something different and just take pride in that and just leave it there, whether it goes good or bad. So I'm all about it. And hopefully they can, pull it off somewhere, and hopefully it's a good race. If it is, great. And if not, then try something else.
And you talked about trying something new. We had the Bristol Dirt Race there a couple weeks ago. Your reflections on how that played out and what you feel that could have been done better moving forward to next season.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a weird event, the dirt category is small, right? With just that one race. So it's not like you go back there in the fall, which, makes it tough, but they say they're going back there again next year to do it again. So, I think this new car is going to bring a whole new set of challenges and how they can logistically make that work again. I felt like the only bad thing, really, I thought it was really a pretty good show. I thought, for the conditions and what they had to work with. I mean, it looked like an old short track race from, the 80s or something, which I thought was cool. I didn't really think it was much of a dirt race like you typically see. And the reason for that was, what we saw in the truck event with how they cool these cars and the windshields. They just can't have a tacky track, which is what dirt racing typically has. You see a track that has some moisture to it and ends up kind of progressing drier and drier as the race goes along. Whereas we started and we were kind of already on the dry side of the spectrum. So I would love to see it where we could have more of that transition like normal dirt racing has. But just the way these cars are built and the windshields in them and stuff, that's very difficult. So all things considered, I think they did a really good job managing that. There was no disasters. I mean, that they tried to get that truck race going and that they had to stop it, but nothing bad happened. And I thought our race went as smooth as it could have. So, but this new car is going to bring a new set of challenges that I don't think anybody really knows about yet. So we'll see.
Thanks for your time.